So this letter B might look familiar from the last tutorial I put together. Ultimately, now I'm going to be giving you guys some tips on outlining. I've got your super basic fine point Sharpie, so I'm going to show you how this works and how you can really leverage it to get the best results after outlining your piece. I know historically I've always kind of sat down, gotten ready to outline the piece, and when I'm finished, almost had a level of disappointment because the piece never looks as good as it does right with the layer of pencil down on the page. I've got a couple theories about why that happens. The first is you've got a bunch of actual tones and variations in your line color here, and when you go down with that full-on black, it takes away a lot of that. So first off, my suggestion is some varied line thicknesses. We're going to try out having some different thicknesses on interior lines and exterior lines to get some, fatter and wider lines, and also some really thin cutbacks and really kind of bring some stuff to nice points. So the first step in trying to make sure you're able to maintain as close of an outline as to what you have drawn here in pencil is to go in with it and kind of pick that median line right in the middle of everywhere, and let's outline from there and see where it goes. So just getting into this, take your time to get that line down. Don't rush through it. Make sure you're going super slow, not a ton of pressure on the page. You can always go back and add more. Especially with alcohol-based drawings, you're going to have kind of a one and done trial here, so if you mess up a line, you're going to spend a ton of time revising it. So just get a simple line down, and then once we can erase away all the pencil, you'll be able to tailor that in a little bit more. Also, be sure to have light pressure. The more you press down on the page, the kind of spottier I find my lines are. So when you press lightly, you're able to glide a little bit easier on the page, and then you can get a little bit smoother of a line. And that'll also allow you not to totally bleed in the page. If you're pressing down and holding it for an area, you're going to actually, spread that ink quite a bit out. A light touch is just going to put down barely enough pen, and you're going to get a smooth and crisp line out of it. And once again, move super slowly here. There's no rush to get that line out. You don't want to have, the chance of getting caught into an awkward area. The lighter you go and the slower you go, the easier you're going to be able to kind of tailor those lines in and just slowly add them on. And also turning your page so you're not getting caught up on the top of the line of the book, or you can freely flow a little bit easier into the direction that your arm moves a little bit better. Definitely take advantage of that. You can't exactly do that on a wall, but why not flex here with that? Now grab your big eraser and get the rest of this pencil out of the way. 3D was kind of in place for just the time being, so not the end of the world if I have to redraw that. Should still be able to see a lot of it, as I had a pretty heavy hand while sketching. Clearly, if you were to leave the piece at this point, it would look way different than original. You've got these crazy skinny lines for how big the piece is. So now I'm going to go back and add some depth, double, triple thickness on a ton of these lines, and show you kind of how I like to build those back up. So one quick note here is this edge is super rounded. I wanted a much more kind of straight on linear line here, so I'm just gonna take that back with really straight cuts, and then also do some really straight cuts on this outside edge. And that's literally just bolding the line. And you can see here the fact that I have the ability to do this and I'm not trying to outline in the exact thickness that I ideally want at the end. I get a lot of chance to actually build this up and work with it. So now I guess I'm just going to work around the piece. This line, you can see it's a little, not perfectly straight. So I'm going to start by, trying to straighten that out on both sides of where it actually is right now. And also, add a little bit of depth to it. Maybe even flare it out, have it a little bit thicker down at the bottom, give it some more weight to the base of the piece. So now that I've made the outline pretty much uniform and bold, I'm going to add some different variations in the thicknesses. So here we can see these two lines didn't quite line up, so nothing harm or foul done trying to bold this out. And then also kind of complement it over here, so this line can now be a little bit bolder too. And we'll see how that rocks. So having some variations in the overall line thickness will add quite a bit of depth to the piece. So here we can have a skinny line, and then maybe choke that in and bring it a little bit thicker as it comes up to the end point here. And this is even before you put any 3D on. So here I'm going around focusing on the exterior lines and making them bolder, and even coming at them and varying that line thickness. So here I might want to have a thicker point at the tip here to match the thicker point there. So say come out from where I previous ended it and just kind of draw a line straight to that. Follow the same thing here. This line's a little messed up anyways. So come in there, straighten those out, and make sure it's a little bit thicker here at the tip than it is at the two ends. Now I'm going to add a Vanishing Point 3D and take it from there. So arbitrarily pick a point off in Neverland and then draw all your lines straight to that. Might as well use a straight edge to get this perfect. Once you have that, you can then connect all your lines following the same contour or line as the existing piece section. And then rinse, wash, and repeat all the way around the piece. So if I were to go through and fill this all in, I would lose a tad bit of the details that I've achieved with that variable line if I was just, full black 3D. But in this case, I'm going to do some piano keys, and for that reason, I'm going to see if I can get some variations in the overall depth of the piece, as well as that'll also let me maintain some of the variation in these lines to ensure that you can still see some of them in the 3D itself. So there you have a quick tutorial on how to outline a piece a little bit better than just going at it with a single pass of the Sharpie. This really goes for anything. Try to pick a liner that is probably about a third the size of your final line. It's going to allow you a lot more tailoring in about exactly how you want each line to look. You can see these small details in here. I'm able to cut them off really nicely, get some kind of really small flares down at the bottom. And then you can also, add a ton more details, round off edges, get some really tight hits in there. And what that's going to do is allow you then, when you have to use a larger marker or you're using a larger spray, you're going to have the ability to then know and use and work within that. So if you do have something that's a fine point like this, its thickness is probably the same width as the regular kind of 3 passes with the Sharpie Fine, but using a really light pressure with that and kind of flaring those hits out are going to allow you to better understand how to use the thicker marker, especially if you're taking your time and going slowly at this, really trying to build up the lines deliberately where you want them. As always, if you have any questions about the process or need any extra tips on sketching or piecing, be sure to hit me in the comment section down below. I'll always read through those and reply as they come in. And also be sure to check out the video I posted prior to this if you haven't checked out how to develop the better structure and really just develop a B in this case off of simply drawing the letter B as is and then kind of building your letter up from there. Ultimately, this is really just a framework for you to kind of learn and see my process and try to develop or spitball off of that. So these are some tips I like to use, whether it's not using a completely black 3D to lose some of the values in here, or using that double cut back to really ensure that the lines are right where I want them. So take some of this with a grain of salt, use it as you like to. Maybe try something out with a similar effort and see what you come out with. It's something that is a good kind of practice measure to kind of get a closer tailoring of using a fine point Sharpie and just making sure you can learn the technique of using an outliner and then build from there exactly how you want to use that within your own pieces. So for me, I find this method works great at detailing and showing the letter off exactly as I like it. But for you, it might leverage you in a different manner. So take the tips as needed and enjoy the process while you work on it. Hopefully this was a helpful tutorial, and take your time, slow down a little bit, and ensure that you're going to be able to work off of a nice structure here and really get a nice letter down. As always, feel free to spray that like button if you enjoyed the video, or consider joining the crew by subscribing if you want to check out some future uploads. I've got a ton of content on the channel, so you will definitely find yourself digging through videos if you like this style of work. It's really going to do it for me, guys. Peace.